Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Empowered by Iron. We are back from our hiatus in December. We are so excited to be back here in the new decade. Although technically it's not the new decade. It's the end of the year that's the new decade, but whatever, tomato, tomato. We are happy to be back. For those of you who are new to the podcast, my name is Mary Morton. I am a weightlifter, more recreational nowadays, so Olympic weightlifter, which is a snatch and clean and jerk are my main lifts. I received my PhD in 2018 in biological sciences, and before that I had a bachelor's in molecular biology, and I am a certified sports nutritionist through the International Society of Sports Nutrition. And my wonderful co-host, Kristin.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm Kristin Lander. I am a doctor of chiropractic. I also have my Bachelor of Science degree in human biology, and I also compete in powerlifting. And I am a certified sports nutritionist through the International Society of Sports Nutrition, and I am head coach of a nutrition business, Fiercely Fueled Nutrition.
And together we have our podcast, Empowered by Iron, that you are listening to. And we also have our parent company that houses Empowered by Iron called Female Strength Academy, which is an evidence-based online resource for female strength athletes. So you powerlifters, weightlifters, CrossFitters, we got you. And that's it. Welcome to the new year. We are so happy to be here. So excited for things to come this year. I have a few tricks up my sleeve for those of you who have always been asking me, Mary, when are you going to do coaching? When are you going to teach us how to eat intuitively? That's coming this year. We've got some other great things coming down the pipeline. So keep your eyes peeled. But today we are kicking off the new year with a wonderful human being that we had the pleasure of interviewing over the break, Katherine Nye, who just had a birthday yesterday, which is crazy.
Happy birthday.
Which makes her like, what, 18? I think it makes her 21. But she is just kicking complete ass in USA Weightlifting. She's one of the highest accomplishing female weightlifters right now. She is our senior world champion and junior world champion from 2019 and received the silver medal in 2018 from Worlds as a junior. Her other big highlights is she recently just broke the junior world record at 112 kilograms snatch.
Ooh.
And she's at a body weight of 71. So you do the math on that one. In 2019, she was the senior Pan American champion. In 2018, she was a national champion, and she is a junior and senior American record holder.
Basically, Kate just busted on the scene of weightlifting and has been dominating.
Just dominating.
And she's also an incredible human being.
Yep. She was so awesome to talk to. She's incredibly wise for her age. And I think Kristin and I were both very blown away with just how incredible she is as a person and as a weightlifter.
Yes. So enjoy this episode.
Hello, ladies. Welcome back to Empowered by Iron. Today we have, I'd say, probably one of the strongest guests in USA Weightlifting on. Wouldn't you say, Kristin?
I would say so.
Today we have Katherine, aka Kate Nye. You may have known her as what? A 55, a 64, a 71, and now a 76 kilo weightlifter?
Yeah, 76 now. Yep.
76 now. So she has basically done almost every single weight class and has you've just exploded in the last, 2 years?
Yeah. My first national meet was 2016 Youth Nationals, but it's been more like 2 years since I've dedicated my life to weightlifting.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll get into all that. Thank you so much for being on. I know that all of our ladies who do powerlifting and weightlifting are just be so excited to hear from someone, especially someone who has taken their nutrition in such an opposite way from what we normally see athletes do. Usually athletes try to lean down, and that's fine. Everyone wants to do their own thing, but for someone like you who just snatched 112 kilos at your last international competition, no big deal. Moving up has kind of served you well, we would say.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm really passionate about, the conversation around nutrition and doing what truly is right for you, not just what might be an emotional decision to, aesthetically maybe, fit your goals in that way, or to maybe win if you do a really hard cut, or make a team if you do a really hard cut. And there's a time and a place for that. You know, if it means making the Olympics, yeah, maybe do a few hard cuts. But other than that, I am very, very much an advocate for people, especially beginners, to not force yourself to cut a bunch of weight, you know. So
Yeah, even if all the cool athletes are doing it.
yeah. So I'm glad to be a person that people can look at and say, oh, okay, she's gaining weight and she's getting better, you know.
Yeah.
Which is great. So I hope everyone can do that.
Yeah, and I think that's everyone's biggest fear. We've talked about it on this show a bunch, is that everyone's biggest fear is like, yeah, okay, so I'm going to gain weight, and then like what? How's that going to help me? Like, I think that there's a little disconnect. And so for people to see like you're a phenomenal weightlifter. You've been a phenomenal weightlifter at every weight class that you've been at, but you are definitely excelling right now, just allowing yourself to fuel your body.
Oh, 100%. I tried to cut to 63 at the time for so long, and I like held on to that class emotionally. I don't really know why. I think I liked the way I looked, and I liked almost the challenge of cutting. It was like part of weightlifting for me, but it was just such like a hard thing to wrap my brain around, to think, okay, you will gain weight and you will look fine and you will perform great. You know, like in my head, I knew logically that made sense, but emotionally, I was just like, I don't want to gain weight. You know, like as a female, like you get told all your life to, you know, take up less space and, you know, all that stuff. So to think that, you know, gaining weight is the ideal in a situation is really hard for a lot of women to grasp, you know.
How did you come to terms with that then? What has that journey been like?
It had to be 2018 junior nationals. I had a terrible meet at 63, and I had competed as a 69 in a meet like 2 or 3 months beforehand, just because I didn't want to cut. So I qualified for junior worlds in both the 63 and the 69 weight classes. And yeah, so we had to kind of choose which one we wanted to do. So we called USA Weightlifting's top, you know, team organizers and everything like that. And we were like, what do you guys want us to do? And they were like, whatever you feel comfortable with, but we highly suggest you go 69, which I think was a big game changer to have those higher ups, you know, advocate a stronger, more healthy weight class for me. I think that was a world difference. If they were just like, oh yeah, keep cutting down because blah, 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 I think that would have made it way easier for me to justify staying in a place where I was pretty unhealthy, really. I was eating like 1,200 calories a day.
Oh my goodness.
Towards the end. Yeah. Towards the end.
Sure.
Well, yeah, but still.
But that's when you're trying to perform well though, right? Like you're trying to perform your best on 1,200 calories.
Yeah, and you'd like hit such a high when you made weight, but then you'd crash, and like just to try to get my energy up to try to compete. Like I have such respect for like the 49s that like have to cut like that, and then they have like the meets of their lives. Like I was barely hitting 90% at meets. I don't know how people did it, but yeah, so they told me that they highly recommended me go up and try to grow into that weight class and be stronger. And my coach was just like clapping his hands, you know, saying, yes, do it. So, you know, when you have all those people around you, you know, suggesting to do this move that are in, you know, influential positions, you kind of start saying, okay, yeah, that's probably the better idea.
Yeah. Well,
but I still did have a hard time.
How old were you at that point?
18.
Yeah.
So your body still had a lot of development, but also like you're kind of like definitely obviously not a beginner weightlifter, but I mean, you're kind of in the beginning of like your very, very competitive career at that point. And so to try to stay in that lower weight class, I think would have kind of stalled your strength gains.
Oh, 100%. It was probably one of the most pivotal decisions we've made in my career, because I mean, I will say it and I'll I've said it and I'll say it again. Going 63 in the first place was the worst mistake of my career, because I started off as a 69 at 2016 Youth Nationals. And by the end of 2016, I had cut down to 63 to make some Youth American records, that's an incredible accomplishment. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But in the long run, like, I was cutting all that weight to get Youth American records. Little did I know I was training for the Olympics at that point, So like, that's what I tried telling like the younger athletes. Like when I was in Argentina, I was with a lot of younger USA weightlifting members. I told them all, I'm like, don't strive for, just this. Yes, that's an incredible accomplishment and be proud of yourself. Go for it. But look into the future. If you're cutting all this weight to get a Youth American record, imagine if you stayed where you were at, developed. Maybe you would get a junior American record next year. Maybe you'll make a senior international team the next year, So I am just very big on telling young athletes that they don't need to settle, just to cut weight to make their careers better or whatever, because really you can stay where you're at or gain weight and do just as good, if not better, because you're performing at a weight that's optimal for you, right? So
right. Well, I think that there's a really big mental toll with continuing to cut and try to stay smaller. And like for you, who was performing at 90% when you did these weight cuts, I think that alone, like, you spend so much time training, and then to not be able to perform as well as you're capable of, I think that takes a huge mental toll on people.
Oh, for sure. That was definitely one of the hardest things, because you, like you said, you put in all that time and effort and you're doing great in training. I think I was clean and jerking like 120, and I went to the meet and I was almost bombing out with 114. Like, it was just, you train so hard and then you get there and like, did it really pay off to do all that cutting and training? Because if I were to, gain a little bit more weight, fill out the 69 weight class, maybe I would be hitting 120 at that 125 at that same meet with the adrenaline. So like, yeah, it's definitely hard as a cutting athlete to grasp that you're probably not going to be hitting your training PRs in the meets. What's the whole point at that point? Right?
Yeah, no.
Like, don't you want to do your best at the meets? I think that's probably a good indicator too, right? If you're not doing your best at meets, maybe it's time to say, okay, let's go up a weight class. So.
Yeah, when your strength is plateaued or you feel like you're stuck, having people like you kind of say these things to women, I think, is really starting to change all sports. When Kristin and I were younger, and you, I'm sure too, when you were younger, just the whole, you need to be lean. No one really taught you how to eat. So obviously, because diet culture is what it is for any woman, even if you're an athlete, all you see is leanness. So you think, well, to be an athlete, I need to be small, when no one, literally no one had ever told me that you need to eat, you need to learn how to fuel your body so it'll do all these things that you're wanting it to do. And we're seeing this big shift. I don't know if you saw recently the big article that came out with a very prominent brand that I'm not going to say the name of, starts with the N, ends with the Ike. And they're running. Basically, it was a and they're just telling the women to be small, and it's a culture shift that needs to happen. And having women on like you on the front end of it is just, it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, and I think the situation you were talking about, I've encountered issues like that when I was a gymnast. People tell you need to be smaller, you need to be leaner, and then they don't really tell you how. So like, you're not setting women up for success. I don't think cutting is awful. Like, there's a time and a place for it, like I said, especially if it's a healthy 2-kilo cut, like that's totally fine. But if you're telling people to do that and not giving them the tools to do it successfully, you're setting yourself up for failure, and you're setting your athletes up for failure. So like, I definitely see how that's an issue today. And I'm just very thankful for the people in my life that have guided me in my career and have supported me in that way.
or
Oh,
bikini
yeah.
sports. And it's heartbreaking to see, especially this happening to young athletes that just didn't have the right people in their lives to help guide them. Or not that they didn't have the right people, but they especially had the wrong people kind of at the top telling them, their coaches and whatever.
Yeah, and that's why I appreciate USA Weightlifting so much, because they've literally given us every single tool you could possibly think of. We have a nutritionist, we have a psychologist, like a PT, usually a DO, a chiropractor. Like, we have been given all these tools, which, and especially in a niche sport like weightlifting, you wouldn't expect all that. In something like track, you think those athletes would have everything and then some, you know? So, like, if we can do it, every other sport can do it. I feel like that'd be common sense.
Well, I think we wanted to take a step back and start with how you got into weightlifting.
No, wait, I want to, can we just keep going?
Oh, yeah,
with
we
this?
can keep going.
Yeah, because I
bad.
Shh, no. No, I think that the things that you're saying are, I know that we reposted a post of yours when you put up about how you have gone up a weight class and that it's been difficult for you mentally. And I think that just really struck a chord with so many women. And so I have a question as to what your advice would be for women who are struggling with that they know, like, okay, I've kind of plateaued my strength, or I'm not eating enough to do what I'm trying to do. So they know that maybe they need to move up, and they just mentally struggle with when they look in the mirror, like, oh gosh, I like how I looked so much better when I was leaner. What's your advice for that?
Yeah, sure. It might not be like the stereotypical, like, say 5 things you love about yourself, you know? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's just not how I am. But I do definitely look for things that I appreciate about myself, things that I'm positive about, you know, like whether that be your new curves, or, you know, maybe your muscles are looking a little bigger, just trying to see the positives aesthetically. And I definitely focus more on the performance aspect. And I'm kind of one of those people, like, I'm in a very healthy marriage. I don't have many people that I have to impress. You know, like, obviously I have my husband, and he's great and he's supportive, but, like, I don't really have to worry about what he thinks, because I know he loves me no matter what, and he understands why I'm doing what I'm doing, if that makes sense. So for me, it's like, I don't really care what others think. I really don't. So I just kind of do my own thing. And if it's helping my lifting, I don't really care about the rest of it. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I look in the mirror sometimes and I'm like, shoot, I used to have like abs and now I have muffin top. And like, that sucks sometimes. I'd be lying if I didn't. But I think over time, I've just gotten used to it. And achieving my goals is so much more fulfilling than just looking like a bikini model.
Yeah. Well, I think that when you start to experience the strength gains from doing that, and just how good you feel when your body's well fed, I think is, at least for me personally, because I went through this exact same thing. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't even want those abs back. I feel so good. I'm lifting so good. But it's hard to convince people of that. They just have to go through it themselves.
Yeah, I would get so depressed, and like, I just would want to sleep all the time. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm always wanting to sleep now, but it was like I could barely keep my eyes open in class. I was taking like 18 credit hours or something while lifting, while working. So like, I was just like, I'm cutting through all of that. Like, I was barely eating to survive at that point. And like, I cannot believe, looking back, I was able to get through a day like that, like a 14, 15-hour day of straight up like school, work, you know, lifting, at least something throughout the day. I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I stayed awake. So yeah, I totally am with you about like feeling better and, you know, like the strength gains. I mean, that's a bigger, you know, adrenaline rush than any, you know, selfie you're going to take, in my opinion. At least if your priorities are where they should be, if you're a lifter, you know, that should matter more, right?
Yeah, I mean, if that's what it's a strength sport. It's not a bikini wearing sport. So
Yeah, there's a sport for that. And this isn't to
And
say
that's totally
that.
fine too.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you are listening to this and you're like, wow, I feel like I should go up to a 76 or whatever. No, you need to do whatever is in accordance to your goals. If your goal is to have a six pack, then you do what you want to do. If you're a recreational lifter, you do what you need to do. But if you're like Kate and you have some serious goals, you're really going to have to consider what your priorities are.
Yeah. And where you feel good. And sometimes going up a weight class isn't the best thing, you know?
Right.
Yeah. If you're just going up a weight class just to go up a weight class, I mean, there's, some things to be said about that too. There's disadvantages to gaining weight. Occasionally you can feel slower. You could feel less energy. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's basically, like you said, whatever makes you feel best. Especially in my case, like, I eat a lot and I eat a lot of junk food right now. And it doesn't make me feel great all the time. And honestly, my happy place is at 71. That's where I would like to be. I lift my best. I look my best. It's just my happy place. My coach agrees with me too. But you make sacrifices to be where you want to be. And for me, that means I'm going, hopefully, to the Olympics. And if I have to eat, crap to get there could be worse issues, right? So, but if I was just like a national level lifter that was just going for national medals or something like that, I'd be a 71 right now. But it is, according to your goals, how you feel, whatever, that's how you should determine what weight class you should be in. Because there are so many factors going into it.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I just think it's very important for people to see, because for years we've seen people on social media do hard weight cuts, and then we see like beginner or intermediate lifters see that and like, oh, well, that's what like the best in the world's doing, so that's what I should do. And so it's just so good to see like the flip side, like, no, you need to do what's best for you. And so for you to say that's not what's best for me is, I think, very, very powerful.
Yeah, for sure. And there are people that, should cut in some cases. Like Jordan Dela Cruz, she's been competing as a 55 for at least 2-3 years, I want to say. She was a 49, but now she's a 55. And, I think her and her coach, like, I'm obviously not in the room with them making these decisions, but I think they were like, if we want to go to the Olympics, we got to cut back down. And that's totally fine, in my opinion, because as long as it's not putting her in imminent danger of losing too much weight, which I don't think is the case, they got to do it, Just like I got to gain weight, they got to lose weight. And it worked out for them. She didn't, pass out on stage, blah, blah, blah. There's a time and a place for everything, So I'm a big advocate for gaining weight when it's necessary, if that makes sense,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, okay, so you've only been in the sport for 2 years, and you're doing, I'd say, a lot of damage. Good damage, good kind of damage. But how did you get into weightlifting? Because you mentioned that you started in gymnastics, right? Can you kind of take us through, like, gymnastics, and then what made you want to switch into weightlifting?
Yeah, so I was a gymnast from when I was 4 until I was 15, so about 11 years. And I quit after I had a knee surgery. I decided I just didn't want to go back. It was too much for me. It's a sport where if you're not 100% in it and love it, then don't even bother. And now I think if you don't have a passion about anything, don't even bother. Yeah. So I used to think like, oh, I could just, fight through it and, I'll get some kind of satisfaction out of it. But really looking back, like, I am thankful for gymnastics, but I'm glad I quit when I did. Mm-hmm. So after that, I gained a lot of weight and I really needed to find something to get fit and healthy again. And I found CrossFit. So I'm the basic CrossFit to weightlifting,
Transition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got into that, I believe, in 2015. Yeah, early 2015. And then by the end of 2015, my weightlifting coach, who was actually out of my CrossFit gym, he just did like the Ole classes or whatever. He was like, I want to take you to 2016 Youth Nationals. And I'm like, I don't know about that. And he's like, I'll make you medal there. And I'm like, how would you know I can medal? Trust me, if you let me train you, you will medal at youth nationals next year. I was like, okay, buddy, whatever. So yeah, we trained for 2016 youth nationals together, and I got bronze there. And that is when I decided to quit CrossFit, go to weightlifting, because I was just kind of like dabbling in weightlifting, but
Wow.
CrossFit was my thing. Yeah, so that's when I decided. So like summer of 2016 was like my first real like commitment to weightlifting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, 2 years after that, summer 2019 was when I was like, I made like my second big commitment, and I was like, I'm gonna cut my hours a lot at work. I'm not gonna go to school this semester, blah blah blah. So like those were like probably the two more notable times in my career when I decided, okay, this is important. And then this past summer, I'm like, okay, this is the priority in my life right now. So, Yep. So that's what happened. And then I think that's about it. I've just been weightlifting since 2016 and going to school, and yeah.
And is your coach who found you, who got you the medals, is that your same coach?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, he's very passionate about weightlifting. He doesn't do it full time. I'm a remote athlete. He has a full-time job in like computer programming or something like that. But he's done some incredible things. Like I have 3 teammates that are youth national champions. It wasn't really his athlete, his like mentor. They switched over. My coach is like the new coach of Team Hercules. The old coach coached our youth Olympian, and not this past youth Olympics, the one before that, Ryan Sennett. He's a super heavyweight. So we've had like a lot of success for our tiny little remote team, so I'm very proud to be on my team. It might not be a flashy name that you'll see, a lot of the national athletes being a part of, but, we get the job done. We don't need to post on social media about how good we are, because, the work speaks for itself and the results speak for themselves. And if you want to get coaching from my coach, you will find a way to get him. He doesn't need to put out ads to do that, Plus he has a life outside of weightlifting, he works and has a family and whatnot. But I'm very proud to work with him. Never had the desire to leave. I've kept improving. Why would you leave if you're still improving? And to this day, I'm still improving. So I'm all in with him. I don't see myself ever switching coaches. So yeah.
Well, I think our girls might be a little bit shocked to hear that you're a remote athlete. So I know a lot of the girls that listen, they are remote athletes, or they purchase programming and they're kind of on their own in terms of lifting. What goes through your mind every day when you're getting ready for training? You don't really need a coach to mentor you, because you are very dedicated, but being a remote athlete has its own struggles. And how do you deal with that?
I think for me, I've prioritized weightlifting, really. That's like the bottom line. So I honestly just make that commitment and have that discipline to say I'm going. And then, the tough part is being there and doing the hard stuff, when I have 5 sets of 10 reps, at 90% of my 10 rep max, like those are the days where I wish I had my coach there, get up, do your knee reps, go again, because sometimes it's not that easy to get up and do it on your own. But luckily I do have my husband. He trains with me almost every day. So he's kind of like my, fill-in coach, I guess you can say. And I don't let him coach me like technique wise, but like if I'm taking a little too long between sets, my husband's like, get up and do it again. Like, come on. So I think having someone to keep you accountable is really important. Like I always get my workouts done, even if I don't have my husband, but it's a matter of like how much time it takes. I'm guilty of being a huge rester in between sets. But just someone to be there to, you know, make sure that you're doing what you got to do is really big. But if not, like, if you want to be good at something and you're passionate about it, you should have the discipline. I just think that life is too short to be doing something that you don't love, you know? Like, I learned that lesson the hard way doing a sport for over a decade that my heart wasn't in it, you know? So I think I have such a big appreciation for weightlifting, a sport that I do enjoy and love. Like, I'm not kidding when I say it's the highlight of my day. You know, some weightlifters say it's their job and it's hard and I hate going to the gym. Like, I literally have teammates on Team USA that say that, and I just like can't relate. I love it, you know, and I understand that some people just have a talent and they just do it because they're good at it, but I don't think that's enough. I really don't. I think if you want to be the best, you have to have a passion for it and you have to have the discipline to do well, you know.
Yeah. Well, and that applies to everything in life, whether it's weightlifting
Yeah.
or your career or your hobbies or whatever. If you don't love it, why are you doing it? I think we have a lot
100%.
of women, myself included, who've tried one strength sport or another, whether it be CrossFit or powerlifting or weightlifting, and you just didn't love it. You feel like you should love it, right? Because everyone's posting or social media about how they love it and it's their favorite thing, and you feel like the other because it's not something you love. But finding the thing you do love, just like you said with weightlifting, it just brings you so much joy. You realize, like, why did I waste all that time with this other thing that didn't matter?
Yeah, exactly. CrossFit for me, I wouldn't say I hated it, but I definitely didn't have the passion for it that I do for weightlifting. I liked it a lot. But there was always something missing there, kind of. Like, I really loved lifting weights. I liked some of the gymnastics movements, but when it came to like the bottom line of CrossFit, it's cardio. And for some reason, it didn't register to me that that's what I hated, and that what I hated was like the majority of CrossFit. So I was like, this isn't working for me. I respect CrossFit. It's a phenomenal sport, and people, I don't know how people do it to the level they do, but like you said, like, why did I do that when I could have been weightlifting for a year, you know? I think that life's a journey, and like, as cliche as it is, like, you just got to take your time and find what you love, and it'll all pay off in the end. Because if you told me 5 years ago when I think I was still a gymnast back then. Yeah, I was. If you told me 5 years ago I was going to be a professional athlete in another sport, I would have told you, you are insane. I was like, no, I'm going to be in college competing on a scholarship in gymnastics, blah, blah, blah. Like, I just wish 15-year-old me knew what was in store, because I was just forcing myself to do something I did not like. And it just kind of makes me sad thinking about how hard it was for me, and knowing, like, I just wish I knew there was more to life than gymnastics. And that can be anything. There's more to life than medical school. There's more to life than CrossFit, blah, 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 blah. Because there is. And like, just taking time to explore those options is huge, you know? So yeah, it's just, I'm totally with the whole, like, don't do it unless you love it. I mean, even if it's weightlifting, like, it's what I love, but I'm not going to force you to, like, I want to be a coach one day. If you're coming, let's say I open a gym, hopefully, maybe, and I see an athlete come in and they're just, you know, dragging their feet around, not wanting to do it, I'm gonna be like, leave.
Get
like,
out.
I'm like, you're wasting everyone's time, not only your own time, but everyone's time around you if you're not doing it for yourself, right? You shouldn't be doing what you're doing for anyone else but your own, you know, whatever.
I agree. Such wise words out of, what year were you born?
99.
Yeah, see, you're even younger than my brother, and that's crazy to me. Not by much, but still.
Young, but so wise. So wise. What lessons do you feel like you've learned besides just making sure that you're doing something you love? What lessons do you feel like you've learned specifically from being in strength sports that maybe you didn't learn from being in gymnastics?
Yeah, I've talked about this on other, interviews and whatnot, but like I was a huge cheater in gymnastics. Like I would cheat, my conditioning, I wouldn't do enough routines, blah blah blah.
Because you hated it, right?
Exactly, like
Yeah.
I thought I was just a cheater at heart. And then like I went to weightlifting and I don't have the desire to cheat. I think I've learned discipline and how to fight through things. And I don't think I really learned, I learned to an extent in gymnastics, that you have to push through things obviously, but like in weightlifting, like grinding through one of those really hard maxes, squatting is a good example, and just pushing through it and keeping going. And the joy you feel when you made a rep that was incredibly hard, like that was huge for me. And I think that learning that the commitment and the discipline pays off, rep to rep or year to year. It's really big to see that those little days that, may not seem like a big deal, they add up into something amazing, right? So I think the dedication has been a really big thing for me in weightlifting that I haven't really experienced in a whole lot, other than maybe school or my marriage, I guess. But yeah, I think that. I'm trying to think of anything else.
Well, if I can speak on that, I think that just hit home with me too. And sure, whoever you listening, I'm sure it hit home too. But there are things in life I'm sure that we all cheat. It just, we are cutting corners because it's something we don't love to do. I hate vacuuming. Will I not vacuum every room in the house? Absolutely. I will not. I refuse to vacuum every room in the house in one sitting because I hate it. But when you find the thing that you love, just like Kate said, it doesn't feel like, yeah, some things can suck, but there's such a bigger goal and a bigger purpose that those sucky things don't really matter all that much.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You love it enough to stay dedicated and to push through those hard things.
Push through the suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, even enjoying those hard days, like, don't get me wrong, like I had a session right before Argentina, like less than a month ago. I was crying, I kid you not, through the entire training session. I started missing jerks. I like couldn't make a jerk for my life, and they weren't even that heavy for me. They were like in the 120s, so like, yeah, it's heavy, but like it's like less than 90%, and I like kept missing them. And I was like 2 weeks out from a meet, and I started crying, and I couldn't stop crying. And then I was doing power snatches, and I was doing fine, but I was still crying from the jerks. Like stuff like that, like that makes you a better athlete. Like to be able to get through that and still say that I love weightlifting, right. Like not every day is rainbows and sunshines, even though I enjoy it. It's just, even the hard days can be enjoyable to an extent like that. I came home and I was able to, unpack everything and say, okay, it's been hard. I'm, not in the deload yet, blah, blah, blah. If I had the bad day today, it won't happen on the competition day. I say that to myself all the time. That's a really good, it doesn't really work like physically, but mentally it's like, okay, I got my bad day out of the way. It's not going to happen again. Right. So just enjoying the process, the goods and the bad days, is really big, I think, and makes you put things in perspective too.
For sure. And to know that those bad days don't define you. Like just because you are missing your jerks that day doesn't mean that you're going to miss your jerks at your meet in Argentina, even though it might feel like that's what it means. Like knowing that it's just a bad day and you didn't suddenly become weak or a bad athlete.
Yeah, I'm totally with that. Yeah.
Well, what you said, something about, sometimes the battle is mental. What are some of the things that you do to help you mentally prepare for some of these big meets? Like going into 2020 is, not to freak you out, it's kind of a big year. But what do you do mentally? Because I think a lot of strength athletes, they enjoy the lifting. The lifting is the easy part. It's the mental side of pushing yourself that much further and recognizing what you need to do to accomplish your goals.
Yeah. So I'm kind of weird. I
love
am. Yeah, I freak out, like nervous wreck for about 2 weeks before a meet. And then for some reason, the day of my meet, I am calm. I'm ready to attack. Like I'm just in like, razor sharp mental game. But I think what I do to really try to prepare myself to succeed at meets, even when I'm freaking out those 2 weeks before, I just really like to use, the imagery, thinking about myself in that situation, what I'm going to feel, what I want to be thinking about right before I lift, just really trying to get away from what if this happens, and then working towards this is what I'm going to do, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
So
Absolutely.
not worrying about the what ifs, but rather thinking about what you can control and what you are planning to do. That really helps me instead of, I get that anxiety, I think most people do, and just chilling out for a second and being like, I'm going to do a snatch just like I did in training today because I know I can do it. I'm capable, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's the biggest thing that has helped my mental game. Other than that, like at competitions, people always ask me what I'm thinking while I lift, and I'm like, dude, nothing. Like nothing.
It should be just muscle memory at that point. You should just be going.
And I know it sounds scary. Like sometimes to me, I'm like, shoot, do I really not think about anything? But I don't. All I'm thinking about is like, you're going to lift this bar. You're going to attack this bar. You're going to kill this lift. Like it's only positive self-talk or aggressive talk towards the barbell. Like that's my thing. That might not be for you. Maybe you want to calm yourself down and be like breathing or, thinking about how you're feeling, whatever. It can be different from everyone. But yeah, those are the two things I'd say are the biggest things for mentally preparing for a meet. So I know it might not be, some fancy sports psychologist. Some people really thrive on that. Personally, I don't. I keep it pretty simple.
Well, I think that the theme of this whole episode is that you do what works for you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if that's popular or unpopular. You do what works for you.
Yeah, I'm totally. And I don't think that's just a me thing. That's for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah. So 2020 is coming up. It's an Olympic year. And you've mentioned you have goals for 2024. So what does the next, let's say, 6 years look like? Hopefully you make this Olympic team, right? And then what are your big dreams after?
Yeah, I want to take some time off of weightlifting after this Olympics, hopefully. Not a lot, just a couple months or so, and just kind of enjoy life for a little bit. Not that I don't enjoy my life right now. It's fantastic. I'm very blessed. But just taking some time to enjoy the little things, just I'm going to go back to school and, whatever. So I'll do that. And then I'll train for the Olympics again. Probably take it really, really slow, not really go all in until at least 2021, maybe even 2022. And then hopefully train for the Olympics. Best case scenario, make the Olympics. And then I'll most likely retire after 2024 for a variety of reasons. And when I say retire, I don't mean like never touch a barbell again. I'll continue lifting. But as far as like elite weightlifting, I don't think I can handle it after 2024. It's a lot, and not physically I might be able to do it, but emotionally I have other priorities in life. I want to go, I want to finish school and maybe go to med school. I want to have a family. I've been thinking about possibly skipping the whole medical school thing and going straight into owning my own gym. Like there is just so many more things to life than competing, and I'll always be involved in weightlifting, but that is my thought at the moment, is that I'm probably going to be done after 2024. But, life is crazy and things happen and you can't really make these plans. Yeah, that's one thing I've also learned recently is like you can't plan anything and you just kind of have to go with it. And you can plan for things, but don't expect them to happen exactly how you thought. So those are my tentative plans, I guess you can say. I definitely want a family. I hope to have a kid before I'm 30. And 2024 gets me at 25 years old, which I think that's a perfect age to start having kids, in my opinion. Like everyone's different. How we're talking about, like what's works for you is not for everyone. But yeah, if all goes well, I'll hopefully have, a kid by 2028, and that's not going to go very well with elite training. So yeah, it's everyone's different, and a family is a big priority to me. So I'd rather not put it off, especially since my husband and I will be married for 5 years plus by then. So like that's going to be a long time being married and not having kids. And that could be another thing. Some people don't want kids at all. That's fine. But for us, it's a long time to wait for us to have kids because we both really love kids. So yeah, that's about it.
Well, and I think as an elite lifter, like you're forced to put so much stuff on the back burner to get your training in and to meet your goals, because it's, even if you have the time, it's difficult to have the energy and the emotional energy into working towards multiple goals at the same time, right? Like working towards trying to get to med school and the Olympics and, thinking about starting a family. It's a lot.
Even just having a healthy relationship with your partner, that's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, exactly. And like, prioritizing like, oh, you got to take care of the house. You got to make sure your marriage is doing well, like all that stuff. You just got to balance everything. And it comes to a point in life where if you want everything in life, you can't have it all at once, and you have to make sacrifices. And I highly doubt I am going to be ready to say goodbye to competing in weightlifting in 2024. I probably will be a wreck and I will be upset and whatever. But, I can tell you even now, if I, were to unexpectedly have a baby at some point in the next quad, I would be more than happy. I would be very upset to say goodbye to, my competitive career. But at the same time, like, I would just be happy I was able to have a kid because, you never know. Life is crazy and it can be really sad. So I honestly think I'd be like, shoot, at least we know, so.
Well, that was kind of decided for you, right? You're like, oh, well, all right, universe.
And not that that's in the plan at all, but there just comes a time in your life where you do have to make those sacrifices, whether that be for your career, for your family, for a sport, whatever. And especially as a woman, it kind of sucks. Men can usually keep competing when they're having a kid. Not that it's their fault, anatomy sucks occasionally. But for a woman, it usually means that, you got maybe not goodbye to your career, but a see you later. You're at least taking a year off of your training. So yeah, but I'm totally cool with it. It's whatever. Life is life. And there's a lot of things that are just as important, if not more important, than weightlifting. And I think that's very important to keep in perspective as well. Keep your goals, high, strive for them, work as hard as you can, but also remember that there's more out there for you. And you're not going to be able to weightlift at, a high level into your 80s, So what do you want by the time you're 80 years old? I think about that a lot, like this isn't going to be my life forever. And I don't think that a bunch of trophies and medals is going to be what I want to look back on as like my life's work. You know what I'm saying? Some people that might be enough, but for me, it's not. I want to have a family and, make an impact in other areas of my life,
We understand. It's like we're talking to the oldest 20-year-old ever. I'm sorry, are you in your 30s?
Yeah, I get that a lot. I grew up quick for whatever reason.
Well, you kind of had to.
Yeah, I guess. You get married at 19. I'll do it to you.
Yeah, that will. Well, thank you so much for being on today. We really appreciate it. And we know that everyone who listened to this is just going to resonate with you and hopefully maybe even be inspired to go up a weight class. Do you have any sponsors?
For sure. I have Velasa, the shoe company that sponsors me. Great weightlifting shoes. All my discount codes are on my Instagram. So.
Well, and for you listening, I'll link them below as well.
Awesome. Thank you. So all the codes will be there. So Velasa is my shoe company. I have ESC earbuds for wireless earbuds while you're training. I have United Lifters and Virus for clothing companies. I have Hardcore Meals, which prepares a lot of my meals for me. We got Earth Fed Muscle, who gives me all my supplements. So yeah, that's about it. And yeah, I'm very thankful for my sponsors and how they have supported me throughout my career. So yeah.
So you listening, if you're interested in any of those things, go support your girl.
Yes, please. Thank you. A lot of my income depends on commission, to be honest. So I really appreciate when people, use my code and stuff like that, because if you like watching me lift, then support my lifting, please.
There you go. Thank you so much for being on.